Live from the subarctic, I'm Craig Martelle. It's already light. It was light at 3:30 this morning, already getting light. Sun wasn't up yet. And today we have Marie Whittaker, who's going to talk to us about project management. She's got a significant background with authors and working and doing the show circuit, teaching and stuff. So tell us a little bit about where you are and what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, so I am in Manitou Springs, Colorado, and unlike you in Alaska there, I guess we're having some really nice weather this week. It's supposed to be upper 70s all week, so it's a really big deal because it's been so cold for quite a while, just coming out of winter. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'll try to get outside and do some stuff.
That's great. It has been exceptional weather here this week, but it's exceptional weather for the end of April in Fairbanks, Alaska. So that means we have, it was 28 degrees this morning. It's 26 right now, but there's no wind, crystal clear sky. It's just beautiful out there. And a benefit of 28 degrees is we don't have the mud from all the snow that is currently melting. So it's nice. The ground's firm. It's nice. So yes, I went out in shorts and a sweatshirt at 3:30. There we are. We have people up and live. Oh, it's great. In the summer, we'll have weeks where the highs are only in the 60s in the summer. But then again, we might have 80s, and 80 is killer because nobody has air conditioning up here.
Yeah. Well, we don't have air conditioning at our house either.
Okay.
We don't need it. Well, I mean, sometimes it gets a little hot upstairs, but for the most part, we really don't need it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So, project management for authors. Let's talk about where would somebody, an indie who has a day job and is just getting into, hey, I love writing. I see your words have value. So Craig Martelle told me your words have value. So how do I do this in a way to bring my books, my stories to market? Oh, and for everybody listening, the reason Marie looks like she's giving us the Stevie Wonder look is she can't see me. She can only see herself, so she's not staring at herself on her phone while we're doing it. It was the only way we could make this work. We tried all the different ways. So Marie is not Stevie Wonder. She's just trying not to stare at her own self talking because that's a little bit disconcerting. Yes. I do all the time because, hey, look at my head. My wife gave me a haircut yesterday, and this is what we're going with, and I kind of like it. It's real easy. The long hair was obscene because it was crawling around and getting in my ears. So anyway, that has all been taken care of, and Marie is – what are we talking about? Oh, project management. So Marie is going to get back to us and talk about where you're working a day job. Where do you start?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because as writers, we have to find that balance. So when you first come up with a goal, say you want to project a certain or set up a book to release by a certain day, then you would use project management to set your timeline so that your goal is obtainable while you still do your day job and while you still, take care of the house and the family and all that kind of thing. So basically it's a lot of time management, and you set up a workflow just like it's your job, your regular mundane day job.
So setting up a workload, describe that and what that looks like for a new author and somebody who has no experience in project management.
Okay, so it's actually a workflow, not a workload. And basically it's setting yourself up with an obtainable goal. You set up your timeline and your project is actually, in this case, producing a book and getting it to market. So your goal is getting it to market. And I know that sounds like a really small goal. You would go, a little farther after you've actually created a book. Say you want to get a certain amount of reviews or a certain amount of sales or get, the book out to a certain market. So you would set your workflow up with all of the little pieces that you need to do to create this book in a manageable way. And that's your workflow. I know some of these words like workflow, project management, and program management and stuff, they sound like they're a crazy big process and stuff. But when you break it down into something that's manageable so that you can actually obtain your goal, you can make it work. Even if you work full time or, you have a high pressure job or something like that, you can set yourself up for success if you set your workflow up right and manage your project correctly.
I'm everybody's watching me write notes because setting up that workflow in a way that that works for an author, because when you write a book, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, especially if you've never written a book before. And I always tell people the first thing you have to do is write the book. You can't sell something you don't have. And some people try, hey, I'm going to be marketing. Here's my my short story. I'm going to write a book. And then they kind of leave off the part where they finish the book. So anybody you got as a reader is now pissed because they never got a book and you talked them into, hey, I'm going to give you a book. So don't start any of that until you make sure that you can finish your book. And the most important thing is you start writing, and then what you do is if you measure it, you can management. I was a management consultant for quite a long and unfortunate amount of time. And if you measure it, so the first thing you need to do is you need to understand your ability to produce. You can't get that engine running if you don't know the gasoline you're putting into it. So if you can get 1,000 RPM, 1,000 words a day, or 500 words, it doesn't matter what it is. It might be 100 words a day, but then you start breaking it down. Oh, I can get 100 words. So in 7 days, I'll have 700 words. I'll read through them, I'll edit them, and then I'll move on to the next 700, and that'll be the next. And then, so now you set your workflow, your calendar up to say, okay, I'm not going to promise this book in 3 months, but I'm going to promise it in a year and 3 months, because that gives me the time to finish the book. Then now we're going back through the editing process to make sure it gets edited. We run it past a few readers of our genre and all of those things. And then now that I have a product, I can bring that product to market. Or now that I have an idea, because now I've confirmed I can guarantee 100 words a day, 700 words a week. So at 6 months, I will have 6 months of 100 words a day. What is that? 18,000 words.
So
hey,
a lot of it is knowing yourself.
A novella.
Yeah, so you have to know yourself, just like you said. Like me, I can crank out maybe 3,000 words before I go into my day job when I'm really motivated and really into a book. So if I set myself up that way, knowing that I have the capability, with my schedule and with my drive, then I can set myself up and know and project when this book is going to be done. And say I'm writing a thriller, we know that's, about 80 to 90,000 words is what the market is calling for with the thriller right now. You can do the math, you can set yourself up to know when you're going to have that book done. And then the next part of your workflow, is sending it out to your beta team and maybe sending it to your editor, however you roll that way. Some people set themselves up where they will write, the first 3 chapters, and that's off to their beta team, or that's off to their critique group or something like that. And you would just build those steps in to your preferences. And then when you do have, your final book, say you're planning on shopping it to an agent or shopping it to a different, press or something like that, then you can also build those steps in. And a lot of it is keeping track at that point. You're going to want to keep track of the dates and the times and the agents you sent it to and things like that. So basically at that point, we're talking about the whole program. Because sending things out to agents and stuff, that goes beyond production of the actual product. So
we don't generally get into that here because we're indies and we self-publish. So our goal is that's a whole separate project in how you manage that, because you have time delays unless you can convince them, I'll give you 2 weeks to review this and then I'm shopping it somewhere else. Because I talk to people all the time. They're like, hey, this company's had my book. There's no sign subs, no simultaneous submissions. And they've sat on it for 4 to 6 months, and I don't know what to do. Well, you made your bed. Unfortunately, if you do it that way, you can't publish it. You can't start earning money off that story until you can publish it. So anyway, we don't even bother talking about agent because we're really it's self-published. That's the focus of our show.
Right. Right. And so if your goal when you get a book done is to go ahead and get it, edited and published, and say you're going wide, and that's another situation. Some people still do just KDP and things like that on Amazon, but if you're going wide with your distribution, then you need to track when it was uploaded, whether you're uploading it for pre-orders. You need to start tracking reviews and that kind of thing too. So you just add things on as you go, or you could set it up from day one when you start getting the concept for the book. You set it up all the way to the end and say you want to have 50 reviews by the time pre-orders are over or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of steps. I put a question up on the screen. What tools do you use?
So the biggest workflow that I have ever created in my whole entire career is the one that we use at WordFire, and we set that up through Google Sheets because we have the G Suite and everybody has Gmail addresses. So I made this massive spreadsheet in Google Sheets, and we can all access it. It's online and live. So we can go in and track where each book is in each process of creation, whether it's out with proofers or whether we're waiting on something from the author or whatever. It's all down in the bottom. There's a series of tabs. You can go and click on the book title in the tab and bring it up, and you can see exactly where it's at in the middle of production. So that thing is a beast. I think we have 64 or 65 books in that particular workflow right now. It's giant.
That's cool. And it obviously works for something as complex as WordFire, who manages an awful lot of authors. What was last count? I think Kevin said something like 190 or something like that. I don't even remember. It was a big number.
I think we're probably in the solid 140s right now as far as authors. As far as books, that we have out, I think we have 370 titles out right now. So your process, now the benefit of the process Maria's using is it's tried and true. It works. It works for either self-publish or TradPub, and how you track it. If you have an item that doesn't apply to you, you move on. And then you fill the next one. And one of the things our folks are going to want to see is, can you do an example of what you track in that spreadsheet? I mean, we want your spreadsheet, but we don't. I mean, it's WordFire's business. But just what do you track, and how does that look across a project called a book? Yeah, I have a sample that I can bring to put up on the screen and show everybody. And basically it breaks down into job ownership, as far as which part of the project goes to which person. Our production manager is awesome, and she goes in and fills out, all of her steps because she owns certain jobs within the project. We all do. We have a team of, I think, 5 or 6 people that access that tool and add in what they do as they go. So in November when I come and see y'all guys, I can definitely bring an example. We can break it down on the screen and look through all the little pieces, parts, and that is just book production from the day we get the contract, recording the royalty splits and everything like that, until the day it's published. And then after that, I have things in the same tool that I go into and add, because we right now are getting a lot of attention from publishers weekly and Locus and things like that for our new books that we're putting out, and we want to be able to track those because we have the goal of setting up a nice choice for libraries, where they can go in and we can take orders from libraries. So that's the goal there. So it starts with production. Well, it keeps going after that so that we can get those reviews and get library attention.
But productions. So a new author who hasn't written a book yet isn't going to be to the now we have a book stage. So what are the steps a new author needs to put to track in their spreadsheet or their calendar?
Well, a new author would want to start with book ideas, and they want to have a workflow where they could go in and check out their idea for this book. They want to track the research that they've done, and you can do that all in Google Sheets. And you want to set up a reasonable goal. My book is the life of Tim, and I know that I want to be able to have that published by January. I am capable of writing 2,000 words a day in my current setting, working full time. When do I want to be able to set this out to an editor, things like that? And you go backwards from your day. Say your release day is January 1st. You go backwards in your calendar and set manageable time goals all the way up into the day when you start writing. And, some people are pantsers. Some people want a nice 10-page outline. Well, you have to build that time in too. How long do I take to actually build this outline with all of the steps that I'm going to need to succeed in this particular project?
And that's I like the methodology of tracking your story ideas. James Patterson does that. He said he has a closet full of stories that he's outlined. It's probably a single page of, hey, here's a story. And he just puts them away until he finds the right writer, the right time to release, and brings them on board, because James Patterson's releasing like a book a week with his name on it. And his Alex Cross. So his Alex Cross, his personal books, those do very well, and they come out, I think, 4 times a year, something about like that. But that process of creation, he knows exactly how long it takes him to write a book. Now, if you don't, then don't put an end date, because this also creates an artificial pressure on you. And you may be able to early it up, or you may be able to go later, because one thing you don't know if you've never published a book is how long it takes to get it edited or beta read. Yeah. My first book, I shipped it out to a bunch of people who said, yeah, I'll read your book. You're a new writer. Oh, sure. I sent it to them, and a month later, I'm like, fuck this. I'm writing it. I'm publishing it because I haven't gotten any feedback. Yeah. And finally, 2 months after that, I got feedback, and he's like, oh, here, you're using this word repeatedly. And I'm like, oh, man, that's great input. Thanks for it. And I appreciated it, but the book had already been published for 2 months. Now, the big deal was only 40 people had bought it, so we're okay. But I fixed it and then uploaded the new one, or I fixed that issue. But still, the process and some of those things, you have to have a drop dead date on these things. You may not have an editor, and finding an editor, that's something you start while you're still in process. And one thing you can do is you solicit editors, and we have that on 20 Books of 50K. We have editors, and they almost all offer a free 500,000 word first bit. So you can write, you can self-edit and say, hey, I've got a great 1,000 words. Let me shop it through a number of editors and find one who can get it back and helps me write better. This isn't about fixing your shit and moving on. It's about helping you to understand what you're doing so you can repair it and improve moving forward. Every word needs to be better than the last word. And as I always tell people, that's a continuous improvement methodology, which is good project management tracks that. So if you do the same project twice, you better cut 10%, 50% off the timelines, off the cost, something, because you can do it better the second time. You can always do it better.
Yeah, so you can. And so one thing that you said, like maybe don't set a hard deadline for yourself on your first book. Okay, so I get that, but like with what you're saying right now, this project management is goal driven. And if you say you want to give yourself a year to get an 80,000 word book completed, then maybe maybe it's not such a hard deadline or something like that. But project management is set up to see that you succeed, and typically by a certain time frame. So you don't want to set yourself up to fail, and you don't want to apply all kinds of pressure to yourself when you're trying to do all the things that you have going on in your life. But at the same time, a lot of it is accountability, and you do want to make sure that you remain productive, even if sometimes maybe you get a cold, maybe your kid gets sick. maybe, something happens where you're just not able to write for a day or two or something like that, which honestly, that makes us all a little bit bajiggity. But you have to be able to give yourself room, and then you also have to hold yourself accountable at the same time. And so saying that, about your first book, you really don't know your own process that well or anything. So maybe you don't want to be so stringent, with yourself at the very first, but by the time you're into your second or third book as an indie author, you want to be sticking to a time frame, and you want to have goals, and you want them to be solid.
Yeah, and the most important thing you can do when you set up a project is, if the end goal is really easy to meet, if you make those inch stones, we had inch stones and milestones. If you hit your inch stones of 100 words every day with that overarching 700 in a week, so you aren't, if you're sick, you can't write 100 words, but you can get 200 tomorrow. Or you feel a scene that's rolling and you can get 1,000 words in 30 minutes, and you're like, holy cow, I got 1,000 words. Don't use that as your benchmark, but now you've bought yourself 9 days time. Don't waste that time. Keep writing. And you're going to find that if you set up your inch stones, those individual steps, correctly for you, you're going to be able to exceed them readily. When I first started, when I wrote my first book, I set my goal at 1,000 words a day, and I didn't set an end on the book because I had no idea how long it was going to be. And I started writing, and I spent 8 hours in the chair, and I wasn't able to get 1,000 words because I just started. I'm like, oh man, this is hard. Oh, I better research this. And I'd hop in my car because I wrote it from a local perspective. And then at the end of in 61 days, I had written 100,000 word book, because the first 30 days, I got a total of about 15,000 words. The last 30 days, I got 85,000 words, because, hey, look at this. The process, okay, it's smooth. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to improve. And that's the one thing with these inch stones.
Yeah.
Because if you do the 100 words a day and you look at it and say, okay, I need 9 months to write my book, you hit that 100, you're not going to hit 100 every day. By 3 weeks, 6 weeks of doing this, you're going to be jacking 500 words, 1,000 words in the same time as it took you to get 100. But don't build that into your plan. Build it into your next plan and say, okay, this is it. So in all my plans nowadays, I plan to write the first quarter of the book in the half the time I give myself, and the last 3/4 of the book in the second half, because it just, everything's set up then. And then you've got the sled over the edge and you're sliding downhill. So these are the things. But planning initially, work within yourself, and go toward and hit those inch stones. I can't emphasize that enough. That it's not 100 words a day. It might be 700 words a week. But don't wait until Sunday and say, oh shit, I didn't even write this week. Come on, you're a writer every day, right?
Yes. And there's also different things that you have to remember to add in. Like you brought up editors. You should be, adding a little bit of time in for research, and you should be adding a little bit of time in, to find the perfect editor, to communicate with your beta team, just to build your author platform, things like that. There's all kinds of things that you need to remember to allow yourself time for when you're first starting out. I did the exact same thing that you brought up about like shopping to agents. I shopped my children's book out to agents for a while, and then I got tired in about 3 weeks of not hearing anything, and so I did it myself. And so I got to see, that was a personal project for me, and I got to see exactly how I work when there's no team involved, when there's just me. So that was a bit of a learning experience for me. I had to kind of back the truck up a little bit.
That's good. That's good. Lawrence Schoen asked if you could maybe copy a link to your sample spreadsheet into today's interview, so we'll have that.
Yeah,
if your sample spreadsheet is somewhere online, that'll be great. That'll be great. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, don't give them edit permission, because they will. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that'll come to the Google Sheet. So yeah, I can definitely send the link.
I'm scrolling through looking for any questions that anybody has. So project management questions. Anybody, if you have something, type it up. And you were called out. I'm going to put that on the screen. Okay. You were called out on your term bajiggity. So
Oh. That's just, how I get all jiggity when I'm not writing. I know everybody knows, how you feel. We want to be writing a little bit every day, and when you're not, it makes you feel a little anxious. Like, my gosh, I'm not doing what I'm really wanting to do with my life, and that's jiggity.
and that's I have an Apple Watch, so if I come up with ideas while in the shower or walking without my phone, because sometimes I just let it run down, I can use. I've got the voice recorder on my phone, and I can pop a quick voice memo in. We talked to Kevin J. Anderson. He gave us the same thing. He said he started recording stuff, and now he farms it out to people like Marie. Hey, I've got a great idea. Here it is. Here's the audio. Can you type this up for me? And you guys jam it up and send it back. And he's like, okay, I can do something with this. So let me make sure I don't forget this in the current whip, whatever it is. So the process of creating a book, even somebody with 150 titles to his name, 23 million books in print, he didn't get there because he doesn't have a process. So this is it. He finds ways to supplement that process. His editorial staff, all of that stuff are knowns now. They are givens. Same with me. I mean, I have editors on retainer, so I know exactly this time frame. I tell an editor, I'm giving it to you here. They say, I will give it to you back by X date. And usually that's 1 to 2 weeks, period. And then the proofreaders get it done in 2 or 3 days. I've got a new release today. I finished writing it.
Yeah.
I want to say 16 days ago. And it has been through beta readers, a full copy edit, and 17 proofreaders. And it published today. So It's possible.
Well, congratulations on the release. You just reminded me of something. A lot of people, want to keep going and have an audiobook. So that's something, that you probably need to build into your workflow. Start looking for narrators and producers, that kind of thing. That's one idea that you can build in. You got to keep your goal realistic, though. So if you're brand new, start with finishing the book.
Yeah. Start with finishing a book. And another is covers. The absolute minimum stuff you need is you need a cover, you need a blurb, and you need a book. Now, It's nice to have an edited book. So whether you get it done or you farm it out to somebody else to do it, you have to get it. It needs to go through that editing process. Yeah. But the cover is important. I usually have my covers before I even start the book, and that helps me make sure that I've got a scene in the book that's covered in the book.
Yeah.
I add that in. And the blurb, I write the metadata while I'm writing the book, because things will hit me. Oh, hey, this is a hook, and then it'll get answered in the story. So the metadata, I have my keywords, my blurb, and my other data. Like, here's the book, here's the series, here are the authors, because I have a variety of authors I work with, and here's the age range. Everything that goes into the Amazon upload process or the D2D upload process, I have there. I write my blurb, I refine my blurb, I run my blurb past a few people, and then I run it through the Kindlepreneur description generator. I work up the HTML. I make sure I get that bolded first line. I make sure I have highlighted stuff in the blurb, and then I copy that into my metadata word sheet. So when we do finally go to upload, there I've got my primary categories. I've got my supplemental categories, thanks to Publisher Rocket, as well as just knowing what other books are similar to mine. All of that, so when I go to upload a book, I don't have to go back. Like the first time, I'm like, oh, what the hell's a keyword? What the hell are the so when I go to upload a book, it takes me, if my internet speed is cranking, it takes me 3 minutes, because I've already gotten that metadata for the book. So that's also part of your process, but you have to already have the book. Now, I know I write the blurb better during the writing process. So there's so much that goes into it, and it's easy. Just mark it down, upload metadata, do it before you publish. Don't be thinking of your blurb while you're looking at the screen on Amazon, on the KDP bookshelf. That my very worst blurbs, that's how they were. That's how they came about.
You were just sort of typing as you were uploading. So,
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
something cool, like you just brought up all this information that you need to have handy and keep handy for every single book. And say you want to go in like and sort of switch up your keywords at some point. Within your workflow, say you do set up a Google Sheet and each book has a book tab. Down below, you can go in and keep track of all of those when you click on a certain book and you bring it up. Say it's already, you're getting ready to publish it or whatever. Keep links to everything within that spreadsheet so that you can click on, your different documents you can copy and paste when you're ready to upload to different sales platforms or something like that. So having everything having everything in one place where you can go and get all the information that you need and see the history of one project is such a great tool. You actually feel a lot better just being having that kind of organization in front of you, seeing the life of a book right in front of you with all of the information right there. It's a real help instead of going and digging through, past files and stuff like that and going into different files on your computer. Have it all right there, so that you can click on everything and bring it all up at once.
And from an estate management perspective, that is so much better. My current process, just because of how I moronically set it up when I didn't know anything, is you have to go into a folder known as Craig Martelle covers to find all of my IP. And under like the current book that released today, you have to go into the folder marked C.H. Gideon, because I was going to write it under a pen name, but then I didn't. And then you find legal, I think it's legal thriller. And then you finally get to here's judge, jury, and executioner. So my heirs will not be able to find any of my shit in my current organizational structure. And I only have about $1 million worth of IP. And I'm not joking about that. $1 million worth of IP hidden behind Craig Martelle covers. It's not hidden. That's just where it is. So this is so important on project management, especially for estate planning. You put that in, and so people know where to go find stuff. And I've got some questions. Let me pose them to you. How would project work for collaboration with two writers?
You just have to make sure, like, when you set up are you talking about like from the beginning of a book all the way through the end? Is that what you mean for two writers?
I'm thinking they're talking about writing the book and other aspects.
Right. Well, the thing is,
I have a book called Collaborations, and I go into that. I have a general project management plan for doing that and how you assign roles and responsibilities during the setup. Don't try to wing it as you're going.
Do not wing it.
Because a lot of unnecessary friction.
It's okay.
Go ahead, Marie. I'm sorry.
Do not wing it. Create the workflow as a team. Say, not everybody's going to be able to work at the same rate or whatever. You have to start out with a reasonable goal first. Who's going to do what? Some people write one character, some people write the other. You have to start the whole project with two people as if you're one person with the same goal so that you guys can both keep on track. I think that there's going to be, different things that you're going to need to track since there's more than one person. There might be a contract between the two of you. You guys have to agree on the cover. You have to, agree and work on everything as you go. So just make sure that you both have access to the same tool that you want to use.
and from a production standpoint, don't if you write 1,000, your collaborator writes 1,000. Do not put that you're getting 2,000 words in a day, because you're going to go back and forth on each other's stuff. So probably just put 1,000 words a day, even though you're both capable of writing 1,000 a day. Yeah. So for your own mental health, and also the contract is way important to do. You had some more to add to that.
Yeah. So you can go ahead and upload a PDF of the contract, and you can upload just somewhere so that you can have a link within the workflow just for quick access. But there's going to be contracts that you're going to want to track for each project. You're going to have a contract with your editor, maybe a contract with your book designer, your book cover designer if you don't do that yourself. There's going to be contracts, for if you use a web assistant, you need to decide what the web assistant has access to, because they're going to need book files and stuff like that. But there's going to be agreements that you have with all of your team. A lot of people do all of it themselves, but when you get really busy and you up your word count goals and things like that, that's when you are going to bring in more people, to be on your team, and everybody's going to need access, whether you're one author doing a book or two authors doing a book. Everything that you have to build a book, you should be able to click on in your workflow so that you can access what's there so you don't slow yourself down, is where I was going with that, including the contract.
Yeah, a shared Dropbox folder or something shared on Google, those kinds of things. It's way important to have shared access, because if one person controls all the access, then the other person will inevitably feel less than an equal
Right. And
partner, especially if you're talking
like work that way. If you're a partnership writing a book, then the whole thing, should be something that you guys both create and have access to throughout the life of the project and beyond.
We have another question. Do you plan a series in project management?
Yes, you do. And it's really important to start logging every single thing that you do to create characters and setting and everything from the get-go. I have a series that I wrote, and I created a workflow for that series. And you need to be able to go back and access facts that you created about a character. When you're in book 4, you need to be able to go back and find out what color of eyes Joe has or something like that. So yeah, you can build out a workflow that has all the details about a setting. You can have links to different inspirational images that you found on the internet when you were doing research. And yeah, so that would be like setting up a program and managing a program with different projects beneath the umbrella of that program. I hope that answers the question.
That's a great example of for this. You set up your project for one book, whether that's going to be how you write it and then publish it. You just copy paste that to the next line, the next line, to the next line, and the dates, the title, and the engagement will be different.
Yeah, you broke up. And
that's on my end.
I'm so sorry.
One bar. So.
Do you want to repeat it?
That's okay. I'm still at one bar, so I don't want to get engaged on something. Do you work on more than one project at a time? And if so, how do you split your writing time?
Yes. Yeah. For my personal stuff, I am always working on more than one project. And at WordFire, of course, we are working on like 64 projects all at the same time. But there's a ginormous team there, with WordFire, and everybody's doing a certain part of the project all at the same time. For me and my personal stuff, yes, I'm always working on more than one project. Say I want to get 1,000 words writing on the new project, that I'm just now writing the book, then I will manage my time in a way that after I get done with my work day, then I go in and work on the like social media engagement for a different project, because I'm a cross-genre author. So maybe I'm writing a dark fantasy right now, but my children's book, I need to go in and go to social media and set up a newsletter or something like that. I'm always working on more than one project. You will be too.
Yeah, once you do, you will, because I'm writing a current book, because I covers ahead of time. I'm requesting buying that next cover before the next book, so that happens during this one. There's always something to do. We have another question. And you already kind of answered this, but do you have any advice on project managing a series of which there are likely to be at least 4 books, possibly for up to 10. Currently, I'm all over the place. Scenes, characters, and world building, etc., for all the books.
So I don't know. You were really broken up right there. I hope I'm not repeating anything you just said. But one of the big things when you're considering setting up a series and managing it, just managing the different projects that are within that series, you need to consider your rapid release strategy. So always be sure and try to build that in. Like check out the market and know when you want to have your different books hit. That's something that you need to build in. Hope I didn't say that twice.
Oh, no, the question was on something a little bit different. It's currently I'm all over the place writing scenes, characters, location settings, world building, etc. for all the books.
Oh, okay.
That's the problem.
Yeah, so you need to start putting that in some sort of an organization right now, or you're going to drive yourself crazy. It's like back in the day when you first started a book and you have to look up all of these different little sticky notes or something like that you have and you have to go in and organize your notes or something like that. If you can start now and grab all the little things that you've been gathering and creating, and you can either upload them so that they're a series of links within a workflow so that you can go and access different things and pull them in and add them into the project wherever you are, or you can just put them all together and try to get track of it right now, or else in your series you're going to start losing things and stuff like that, and you're going to have to redo your work, and that's never any fun. So I would say grab it and get rid of it right now and get some organization there.
Yeah, you need to get that book done, then get the next book done, and that's why you write a series, because either they build on each other or they're a bunch of standalones. And in any case, if you have an interlinking issue from book 6 that you wanted to put in book 1, well, just jot down that I'm putting this in book 1 and then address it when you get to it. But don't get so overwhelmed in world building like J.R.R. Tolkien and spend 30 years building your world before you actually publish your books. So this is something that
good.
Now he made a good living at, but he had a day job. This is J.R.R. Tolkien had a day job, and he just dabbled at Lord of the Rings. Oh yeah, I need to create 7 Elvish languages before I start writing, because only an insane person would make it up as they go. So it's just a different process. But you can look at it and say, well, he wrote 5 books over the course of his career, but when he finally went, they were monumental. But he had to have a day job for his whole life because that was how he lived. And it's a different way. Yes, it's epic. And if that's what you want to do, just understand it's going to take a long time to build these worlds and then live within them within your mind. Before then you can craft the stories that are intertwined through a million words. And now if you're telling a growing story and build, like everything I've done, I always build the world as I go. I have ideas and stuff, but you build it as you go. And then I just take notes. Hey, this is like anywhere there's an open loop, just jot that down and try to address it later. And then my proofreaders and beta readers are merciless when it comes to open loops. So like, hey, you didn't address this. Oh, Jesus. And then dive back in and resolve those sub issues within the story, because I finish every book. It has a resolved plot. People leave happy, but it's all within an overarching series theme. But you got to get the book done. You can be distracted. What are your goals? Now, if your goals are to write the next Lord of the Rings, then maybe you do want to spend all this time developing your world in which you can then write and tell stories. It just depends. If you're looking at this at extra revenue to help you get through and survive off the day job, then you need to publish the book. So balance, decide exactly what you want, and then go get it. And that's what the project management can do.
You have to establish your goal, just like you just said. If you don't establish your goal, then you're still going to feel like maybe you're doing things a little bit willy-nilly. Finish the book is the big thing. It really is. So don't set yourself up for failure. Check out your schedule, check out your calendar, set up something that works for you, and then adjust it after your first book. I think probably the way to go.
Yeah. And somebody recommended a personal wiki. Yes, you can do that. Wiki entries, those take a little bit of time, but especially if you're developing a world, and Mal Cooper is doing the Aeon 14 world, which as she claims is going to be the biggest. This is her goal: make it the biggest shared universe in which people write. And this is, you can say, well, Star Wars, Star Trek, they only have like 500 books. Mal Cooper already is pushing that envelope. I think she's at 230 books in the Aeon 14 universe. Now a wiki would be perfect, especially as they're bringing in other people. Here's the universe, the timeline. It's 30,000 years, so people can enter any point in time. Because it's like, hey, here's a story on 1918. Okay, that's great. It doesn't apply to anything nowadays, so that can be written in a pseudo vacuum, but it still needs to be the universe. But a personal wiki, that's a great idea. Just understand, build that into your project too. It takes time to make those wiki entries.
Well, and that, that's all about the end goal. I recently started writing in somebody else's universe as well. And one of the most helpful things was to be able to go to this website that's a wiki with all of the information about all the characters, different worlds, different situations, different happenings in the timeline of the universe and stuff like that. So yeah, I agree. Being able to send somebody just to a place like that is a huge help if you're planning on collaborating with different authors and letting them play in your sandbox. For sure.
And there you are. Let's see if we have any other questions. Lawrence,
I can't see the questions. Just so you know, our setup here didn't work out the way it was supposed to, so I can't really see the questions.
And she can't see that I'm looking at the questions. That's why I verbalize. I'm looking at the questions, and then I repeat them. And here's something. Is it a good idea to do box sets of the trilogy? For me personally, I've made a absolute Big Bertha buttload of money off omnibus editions and box sets because I didn't do them until way after the last book published. So that money train had run most of its course. And then the box set, Omni edition, 3,000 pages in a single package. And especially for my Kindle Unlimited readers, hey, I'm going to do a reread. Hey, just wait until the box set, reread through that. And people are like, okay. And all of a sudden, now I'm getting, jacked up 40,000, 50,000 page reads a day off a series I ended 3 years ago. So
yes, and that's why it's such a good tool. Say you release 4 books in a series and a little bit of time goes by and things start to dip. Well, that's when you release your omnibus or your box set edition, and it just kind of breathes life back into that project. It's almost like adding another step to your rapid release. It's a boost. And
Guy Anthony DeMarco, he has published, he has done a collaboration with Kevin J. Anderson. And he commented that bring in some of your street team to help build your wiki. And that is something that we've always done because, holy cow, it's overwhelming as you add it. Because if you stop, hey, I did this character, and all of a sudden he lost an eye. Now he's got one eye for the rest of the series. So you dive back into the wiki at this point in time, he lost an eye at this. So if you ever reference it, oh man, I was in that bar fight and you forget the name of the bar, the planet they were on. And so you want to capture that. But as you're writing, now you've interrupted your writing process. Now, where was I? And so having a street team, having a beta reader, insider group, proofreaders, your ARC team, any of those folks, if he's like, hey, please help me with, oh my God, I'll send you a signed copy of the paperback. I've made a lot of, I've gotten a lot of free labor off a signed paperback for that stuff. So that's a great suggestion, Guy.
It is. Hi, Guy. So fans of your books make the best street team like that because they know the facts about your books like inside and out. And if you don't, you fail to add a certain detail to your wiki or something like that, they're going to call you out on it with a really good suggestion that you add all of the details because you've got a lot going on. You're creating a different book and you're trying to track all the others in the series in one place. So
I have my insider team and I'll ask them, what's this character's name? Because I won't remember. I've written an awful lot of books and I kind of forget going forward, but they remember. They pull up the files, do a quick search and save me and keep me flowing because getting that workflow, I mean, I'm averaging 3,000 words a day on the new book and this is with everything else going on in my life. Just like everybody has other stuff going on. Writing now is my part-time job. I will tell you that the conferences and running 20 books to 50K is my full-time job, which I don't get paid for. But it's neither here nor there. That is what I've decided to do, the way to spend my time, and that. And the Indie Alliance, something else that I've started, a separate thing for science fiction fantasy authors for professionalization of them, and help them to realize how they can get the most value from their money, from their words, from their work. Writing as part-time, I am extremely pleased getting 3,000 words a day part-time. So I relate to those folks who do have day jobs. Even if you're working from home now, or now you're homeschooling your kids, and it's like, holy shit, I've got all of this hanging over my head. I'm still convinced that as a writer, you can still get your words because you're thinking of that stuff while others going on. And that's just make sure, because you can't sell something you haven't written. Even if, I have like 5 different books on my pinned sheet for Word. I write exclusively in Word. I'm a Microsoft guy from the MS-DOS days, and I'll bring up I'll think of a scene, and I'll bring up a book like a nonfiction of life in Alaska that's kind of like literary fiction, and I'll jam it in real quick, and it'll be different language than I use in my science fiction, but it's just a different thought process. And then I'll close it and I'll go back to whatever. And that's just, and all these words will add up over time and be like, oh my God, you wrote that book in a week? A week after you finished the last book? No, I wrote it in a year, but in little snippets. And this other book, yes, I wrote it in 3 weeks because I was focused so completely on it. And this is now my project management. I say I am horrible to teach people project management because I keep it all in my head. And how do you keep it all in your head? Well, that's I've done this for my whole life. It's not recommended for any, because as Marie will tell you, she was on last Thursday, but I hadn't written it down. So I stiffed her, and I had a different guest, and she's like, "Hey, aren't I on today?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, you were." So yes, I made my apologies, and here's Marie today. But still, those things, because it was ancillary to 2 other things I was doing, and I'm like, "Great, we'll have you on Thursday. I'll let you know." And then I didn't write it down, so now all of a sudden I'm looking, and I'm like, "I've got a gap on the schedule. I better fill that," because I like checking boxes, and there was a gap, an apparent gap when there wasn't. And this is something that, as project managers, you absolutely have to confirm that something is done before you move on. And this is and writing your words. So go ahead, Maria.
So within your project, you can set up calendar notifications, and it is a beautiful thing because, like, so today is the day you're supposed to send out a certain amount of arcs or something like that. You set up the different steps so that you can succeed on that day, and your phone or whatever you do in the morning when you're having your coffee before you get to your desk, you pull up all of your notifications, and you can see what's on board for the week and for the day. So trying to keep all of that in your mind as your projects grow and grow and grow, and you get more and more books out there, it's a recipe for failure. It really is. You're gonna start skipping steps and stuff like that. But I would say, like, one of the best things that you can do with any system that you set up, whether you use Monday or whatever tool that you use for your project management, is set up some sort of a calendar notification so that you get that extra nudge of when something is due, or something that you have to check or whatever. When you live your day and you're thinking you're all done, and your calendar can give you a nudge and say, oh yeah, this is due tomorrow. It can keep you on track.
And I'll tell you that I do forget things, but they're not that many, especially when it comes to book production, because I'm all over that. But when I do, just understand there's an expense to that. Because asking a cover artist to hurry up a cover, asking an editor to, oh, by the way, I need this in 6 days, not 14, those kind of things come at a higher cost. So just understand, if you want to manage your costs too, make sure you manage your steps.
Yes, exactly. It's all about the whole entire project being managed in one place with one tool that you can look at. And that's a real helpful thing.
Google Sheets, and Marie will copy in a link. We're going to wrap it up. It's been 55 minutes. well, Marie and I have been at this for an hour and 20 minutes now, but we're live. We were able to get this done. The Queen Bee shirt, just to keep things under control, which applies if you're a project manager. That means you manage it. You need to take charge of your steps and make sure those boxes get checked. Make sure you have dates and SMART goals. SMART goals is something that we always encourage people to apply. They need to be applicable, relevant, time relevant. They need to be be defined cleanly. So anyway, specific, measurable, achievable, time relevant, and what time sensitive. I forget what the steps are, but just understand it. You need to be able to achieve it. I want to make $1 million. Not a good goal because you don't control that. I want to write a book by Christmas that's 80,000 words, all eminently doable. It's a significantly different. Now you can write it then. So this is when you put your goal down of what you want to do, that's what it needs to be. A complete book of X amount of words with, the storyline you can or offer, whatever it is. But don't write something. I'm going to write it in Klingon. That's nice, but I don't speak Klingon. So make sure it's achievable is one thing you want to put. Measurable, 80,000 words. So these are the things that you need to apply. Time, because that time goal, not just, hey, I want to write a book someday. Everybody knows people who said, oh yeah, I always wanted to write a book. And then they never do because I always want to write a book. There's no time. There's no commitment. So make that commitment. Do great things. Any final words, Marie?
You can make $1 million. That is an actual goal that you can have, but you need to set yourself up right to do it. And writing that first 80,000 word book that you brought up just now is one of the projects in that program to achieve $1 million. So if you break it down and you set yourself up for success, you can do it.
Indeed. And as Lawrence says, let me translate this into English on behalf of Lawrence.
Okay.
That if you do want to write a book in Klingon, write it in English and just know somebody who can translate it for you. But then this comes at a cost. If you want to learn enough Klingon to write the book yourself, then you have to build that time to learn Klingon into your schedule, which I'm not going to do. But I know people who speak Klingon in case I ever wanted to write anything and publish it in Klingon. So anyway, with those closing words, tomorrow I have no guests for the rest of the week, but I'm already sent a note out. Hopefully we can get John Truby on the show and some other folks. I got some feelers out. We'll fill in the schedule appropriately and hopefully be entertaining as well as informational. Thanks, Marie. If you can drop that link into the comments on Facebook, that would be great. We appreciate it. And nobody abuse this spreadsheet. Just download a copy and look and see how it can help you. It's just a tool, and it's the buffet. We're setting the buffet. You pick and choose what works for you, and then go forth and conquer. I really appreciate your time today, Marie. I thank you for sticking with us. And Marie will be in Vegas. I think we have you for 2 classes that you're going to teach.
I think 2, yeah. One is for wide distribution. The other one is project management for writers.
Okay. Wide distribution, something we can always learn more of. I mean, I personally almost all in with Amazon, but it's a buffet. I like Amazon. They do great things for me, but let's see, what about Kobo? What about Apple? There are a lot of other venues out there to get your books into people's hand. And how do you get them into libraries? Because right now, ebooks in libraries are kicking it. So everybody, you have a great day, and we will talk to you later.
Bye.